Caleb Love makes his way to the professional ranks after 5 years in college. Of course, he spent 3 years at UNC, had some very high highs and some forgettable lows, let's put it that way. Then had two really solid years at Arizona as well. Was the last ever Pac-12 Player of the Year. Bucket throughout his time in college. One thing you cannot dispute about Caleb Love is he is a bucket. It's just all the other times where he's not necessarily on, when he's a little bit streaky. Those are what creates doubts in the minds of any Caleb Love skeptic out there. Dion, he comes in at 69th on our big board. Greg had him at 63. Carter also had him at 63. Sounds like a little bit of homework copying there. Ralph had him at 66. I had him at 64th. You had him at 68. What are your thoughts on Caleb Love as an NBA prospect?
Yeah, Cart 100% got into the 60s and started copy pasting. I thought about doing it myself, and then I realized I didn't know where I left off, and I was just gonna have to do that. But no, I honestly, I've been teasing to you since we got on here how this was gonna go. I'm extremely high on Caleb Love in this draft, extremely high. I think Caleb Love is going to carve out a very long NBA career for himself. I think Caleb Love is going to make a ton of money in the NBA. And to be quite frank, I think you see it, and I don't mean this as anti-UNC propaganda by any means, but I think you see it with his transition to Arizona. That up-paced style of play is where he fits, and that is the NBA game. And I think you give him that as much space as he's going to have in the NBA. Good luck staying in front of him.
So I laugh at this because you ranked Caleb Love the lowest on your big board out of the four of us.
Well, I did the big board based upon where they're going to be drafted.
Okay,
I
okay.
don't think I foresee Caleb Love being drafted at all, to
But
be
you
fair.
think he's going to be an undrafted guy who figures it
But
out?
if it was just me, like I personally, like you can't convince me to pick like I don't know who are the dudes going late first round? Like the Yannick guy from Penn State. I'd rather have Caleb Love.
I don't hate that take. Uh, but there are some concerns with how Caleb Love translates to the NBA. We can talk about the strengths first. Kind of I tease it at the top. It's the shot making. When he's on, he's electric. I actually have a friend, Dion, who's an NBA exclusively like kind of fan. I think he'll tap into the tournament a little bit. And this year when Caleb Love was putting up 35 against Duke in the Sweet 16, he texted me. He was like, "How is this guy not in the NBA yet?" Because every time he watches him, it's in the tournament where he goes off and does something
Well, I could
crazy.
if he wants, I could answer that for him. Hubert told him to go back.
That is not why he's not in the NBA. There's
It
plenty
is.
others.
He was gonna be a first round pick, and Hubert was like, "Oh, don't come back. Star heels, star heels, star heels."
Okay,
The
Hubert, I
tournament
don't
didn't
think.
get drafted.
Okay, after 2022, had he gone to the league, I think he would have been a second rounder. I don't think Hubert was like, "Yeah, come back. You have to come back and be the starter." So
Star
maybe he
heels.
was.
That's all we heard for a summer. He should have went to the league then.
Okay, well, continuing to talk about Love's strengths, he's a shifty ball handler. He can blow by his man. He's been a contested shot maker throughout his career. Plus wingspan could at least be disruptive, and I would say he improved as a defender at Arizona, and he's a pretty good secondary playmaker. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I think he has well, not the most, one of the more transitionable games to the league. I disagree that there's questions on it. I think when you watch Caleb Love play, it's very clear what his role is in the league, and it's already carved out for him. There's plenty of dudes that do it. There's one dude on every team pretty much that plays his role. And I'll get into that with my best and worst case comps. But I think of the second round picks, I don't know how many people have a more like like an easier transition than Caleb Love.
So I'm pretty high on Caleb Love's potential to stick in the league as well. We'll see that as some of these categories play out. I think like when you see there's been like 5 games, 5 postseason games alone throughout his career where it's like this is a freaking 10-year NBA vet when you watch those games. I think the full picture scares me off a little bit. Dion, he was in college 5 years. Do you know how many seasons he shot above 40% from the floor?
Probably none.
Just one. His first senior his first year at Arizona, he was like at 41%. Every other year, sub 40.
Shout out to
Um,
Tony Miller for getting the best out of him. You know what I mean?
he did not get the best. So how do you explain this past year when he was back at 39%? Okay. He only, guess how many seasons he had shooting above 35% from three?
None.
One. His sophomore year at UNC. Shout out to Hubert Davis for getting the best out of him, 36%. Like that to me. I would say the efficiency of the shot selection has always been a concern, but even more than that, like as someone who watched every game of Caleb Love his first 3 years and still watched a good bit of him his 2 years at Arizona, it always kind of felt like his athleticism never fully translated to the court. Like you would see the highlight reel dunks are sick. Like when he gets the ball on a break and there's no one in front of him, he can essentially dunk from the free throw line. Yet he always sort of struggled finishing through traffic and through contact. And I think his like numbers at the rim throughout his career kind of speak to that as well. So that's why it's like, again, the highs are great. There are plenty of times throughout his career where he looked like a surefire NBA player, but I just have concerns about like, I think he's listed at 6'4". That feels a little bit generous. And even like I went back and watched the Duke Arizona game from the tournament and just even like guarding Con Nipple, he looked kind of small next to him. Like it's some of the size concerns, some of the issues with finishing through traffic that I would say this is going to be the difference with him being like a really good role player for honestly, it could be like 8, 10 years to just being like a career G League guy, in my opinion.
I don't think he'll be a career G League guy.
I don't think so either, but it's just like,
He will he'll play in Europe before he plays in the G League. He bare minimum he can go to Europe and win the EuroLeague MVP. He can go to China win the CBA, I think it is MVP. Like there's too much money for him to make overseas to play
mm,
in the G League.
yeah, yeah. Well, I hope. I mean, I want it to work out for him. He's someone that even after he left UNC, I never really held any bitterness towards him. I don't think it was like he was dying to leave UNC. I think there was probably some sort of conversations about this partnership has run its course or whatever, but we don't have to get into that. I am a Caleb Love fan still. I always will be. But what's your one word to describe Caleb Love?
I said sporadic.
I
Um,
said, oh, okay.
I'll go ahead.
I said volatile. So we're like
Yeah,
right on the same wavelength.
same thing. I mean, he has his ups and downs. I think his ups are he'll have more of them in the NBA than he did in college.
I like that take. How about his floor or ceiling? Which one are you going with?
Ceiling. Like I
Oh,
really do think like you talk about his athleticism, it doesn't get shown. It's because he's playing on. Isn't the dimensions of the court a little smaller too?
hmm.
Yeah,
And Arizona always ran the two bigs to where you could say like I think Tommy Lloyd's a really good coach who runs good sets and like generally instills good principles and good concepts that like keeps things free flowing and everything and they have good ball movement in general, but I wouldn't say it's really like an NBA system. So to that point, you could argue that with better spacing, maybe it translates a little bit better, but yeah.
Um, and then I said his best team fit was the Clippers, which will lend to my best and worst case scenario too.
Okay, what's your case for the Clippers being the best fit?
I just think the Clippers utilize their bench in a manner that he needs to be utilized.
I think that's a pretty good take as well. I said the Cavs. Again, I'm kind of thinking of like how could I put him into a good system with a good coach and a team that's on the up and up where they have like solid defenders around him that kind of mask maybe some of those concerns. And even looking at free agency, they could lose both Sam Merrill, they could lose Ty Jerome. I don't think they probably want to pay Ty Jerome after the playoffs. So I like him stepping in and being able to have like a path to finding real minutes early.
I tell you what, if Sam Merrill left the Cavs, I don't think anybody would be referring to it as they lost Sam Merrill.
I swear I know Cavs fans who love Sam Merrill. That's the only reason why I bring him up. But just looking at the roster of the guard room. But um, where do you see him in 5 years, Dion?
As an NBA bench,
Yeah,
in like a high role. I think he's a six man in the league.
I think he'll be a bench guy as well. I don't know how high that role becomes, but I think he could definitely have some big moments, and maybe even would like have some big playoff moments as well.
I don't know.
What about your most likely for Caleb Love or superlatives?
I said
Where
win
are you?
rookie of the month in March. So like when the NBA gets to the point where like half the league just stops trying and we just start throwing dudes on the court, like Caleb Love's gonna have like he might average 30 in March. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna put up insane numbers during that stretch of time.
Dia, we were like super locked in on the same wavelength here. I said he's most likely to score 30 plus points on the last day of the regular season.
Yeah.
Like we were thinking the exact same thing here. Um, let's move on to the best case scenario for Caleb Love. What's his comp there?
Jamal Crawford. I
Okay.
think this is a guy who could win six man of the year multiple times. Now, the struggle for Caleb Love is that archetype of player doesn't really exist anymore. And
hmm
the NBA doesn't normally go to that route. But like some teams do. And if you're talented enough, you can force them to do it. And I do think his biggest issue is going to be finding a team that wants to utilize the six man in that capacity. But I don't honestly see a ton of difference between him and Cam Thomas. And Cam Thomas is about to get nine figures somehow. I disagree with that contract a
Hmm.
lot. But
Hmm.
that's the Nets' money, not mine. But I don't, I don't see too big of a difference between him and Cam Thomas.
Hmm. I like the Crawford shout just because, he's also someone when you look at his career numbers, you would think like if you asked me what Caleb Love shot from three this past year at Arizona, I would have said like 39%. And then you see he shot 39% from the field. If you asked me what did like Jamal Crawford shoot from three for his career, I'd probably be like 38, 39%. And there's a lot of like 31% sprinkled in there, but it's just the highs are very enticing. For me, I said best case for him would be Kevin Porter Jr. minus like the extracurriculars. But I think Kevin Porter Jr. is like bigger, and I think he's like a legit 6'6". But I think just the way that they shoot the ball, the way that they like get to their pull up jumpers, to me they just look so much alike in how they create offense for themselves.
I like that shout a ton. I thought about it. I lended away from it because I think without the extracurriculars, Kevin Porter Jr. would have carved out a much larger career than
Hmm.
Caleb Love is capable of doing. But
Hmm.
I think there's a ton of similarities, especially now
Hmm.
that the extracurriculars are in play. Not
Yeah.
that Caleb Love's done that, but Kevin
Right.
Porter
Right.
Jr.'s new role, I should say.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I would say like maybe a smaller Kevin Porter Jr. So that way the ceiling is capped, but he could be like a 20-minute a game, get you 12, 13 a night. What about worst case for Caleb Love?
Bones Highland, because I think he's going to have flashes. But if he isn't willing to accept a role, he could play himself out the league the same way Bones Highland has
Mm.
essentially done it.
I can't believe, dude, Bones' rookie year, I was like, this guy's gonna stick for good. I loved Bones Highland. I think that's another good comp. I said Jemias Ramsey, who was another like undersized combo guard with flashes of athleticism, flashes of shot creation, but just could never put it all together. And yeah, he's out of the league as well, or he might be in the G League now, which could play out
He's
for
in,
Caleb Love. So I think he
he's
is in
in
the G League.
Yeah, he's in the
Yeah.
G. I think both Ramsey and Bones Highland are like showcases of just like how much the NBA is mental as it is skill level. Because you're going
Hmm.
up against dudes that everybody has the same talent as you, but who's willing to do what the coach and the team are asking for?
Hmm.
Because Bones Highland is an NBA player. He has essentially played himself out of that.
Yeah. See, I've always gone to bat like for Caleb Love, the teammate. I think like the Carolina fans who turned on him weren't, they were, I don't know, people would always zero in on his body language too much, but I thought like he was always because this was when his last year at UNC when they missed the tournament. I was covering every game and writing for the Field of 68 daily at the time. Like I was talking to his teammates after every game, and there seemed to be. I think that team had some chemistry issues for sure, but I think it seemed like he was so well respected, and I don't know. A lot of times he was the one who was like the first to. He was always ready to fight. Like anytime someone was like a hard foul at his teammates or whatever, and I think you saw the maturation throughout his career where like just listening to him in interviews it's like okay I think this guy gets it now and probably had some immaturity early on but I think that does bode favorably for him like being able to find a role and work at it so
I
um
think I think it's easy to be a great teammate when you're the best player on the team. And
that's
where
good.
Caleb Love is yet to play. Now, I think Carter Bryant was better than him talent-wise, but Love is yet to play where he is in the role he's going to be in the NBA, where you're not playing 30 minutes every night, where you don't have the ball all the ways in your hands.
Hmm.
And I think Bones Highland was in the same boat. He was a great teammate at VCU. But then you get to Denver and you're a great teammate when you're six man Bones Highland, everybody loves you. And now you're not as good of a teammate when Bruce Brown takes your minutes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think it's easy to be a great teammate when things go your way.
It's a good point. Good point. Well, we'll see how it all unfolds for Caleb Love. Yeah, as I said, I'm always rooting for him, but make sure you stay tuned in to Sleepers Media YouTube channel for all of our draft coverage. We got you with 80 of these prospect breakdowns, analysis, comparisons, and some fun categories mixed in. So make sure you stay subscribed to the channel.